So the first implication, avoiding the tyranny of mission, the risk of confusing vision, mission, and strategy. We see this when organizations relentlessly pursue their mission when the realities they face say, it doesn't make any sense. When there are changes in their marketplace, when there are changes in values in a society, when there are fundamental shifts occurring where they're operating, when the community is saying, we need you to be about something slightly different, and the organization says, no, this is our mission. We will be about that mission. Now, when you think about mission, what it really is the contemporary expression of your purpose. And the emphasis is contemporary. Missions evolve over time. If nothing else, if you pursue your mission successfully, then you're going to need to shift it because you've achieved mission and you need to be about its successor mission. Now, vision is something very, very different. Vision is about the goal that you're trying to achieve, and it describes what it's like when you've achieved it. And so the mission is taking you somewhere. It's taking you to vision. So vision is that force that holds people together, but we get it confused with the temporal nature of mission. Now, strategy is something else. Strategy has to do with economics and markets. It's about competition, it's about comparative advantage, it's about choices and trade-offs, and it's the logic we use to make decisions to help us move toward our vision. But when mission, which is so deeply rooted in values, becomes such a dominant force, we lose sight of vision, and we lose the inability to really be strategic. In fact, what happens is, when you see mission tyranny at work, strategy and vision are constrained. So we'll see examples of people investing in innovation, but what happens is people will let them play on the edge. And when it starts to get force, somebody says, wait a minute, that's not consistent with our mission. It was okay to do these few little things over here. That was interesting. It might have some value, but that is not our mission. Now, those of us who consult in transformation and change in organizations know that you need three things to empower transformation. The first is you've got to have just an enormous sense of urgency. It's usually experienced as acute pressure on the status quo. And everything you're doing, it just doesn't work. The status quo is so hard to maintain. There are all these forces keeping you from maintaining your status quo. And the second is, you have to have some vision about where you're trying to go. And it's something that pulling you toward it as opposed to forcing you to change from where you are. And then you have to have a willingness to change, and a willingness that is so great that it overpowers the forces that are keeping you from changing. Without those three things, transformation doesn't occur. So when you have this deeply ingrained sense of values that's expressed as mission, you end up with a dominant logic model that keeps an organization in stasis. And when you start to challenge that stasis, what happens is people get scared. They get fearful of the change, and they begin to sense that there will be great loss in their lives. And that experience in loss, or anticipation of loss, or the sense they may end up in chaos, becomes so strong that they're immobilized and the stasis is constant. But what we know about the edge of chaos, it's often called the zone of creativity. And that often you don't get to creativity and innovation till you're at the edge of chaos. And you have to be willing to experience the anxiety of chaos for innovation to emerge and to take hold. That old expression that necessity is the mother of invention was a wonderful explanation of what happens when you're at the edge of chaos. So, transformative organizations begin with what Jim Collins calls facing brutal truth, facing brutal facts. It's looking at those forces that are just keeping you where you are. The second thing that it has to do, you have to be very clear in articulating what makes you vital. What's the vision that makes you a vital organization? And then you have to confront that dominant logic model and be willing to say, is it time to abandon the expression of mission and find the contemporary expression of mission that lets you be about your vision? Now, we see examples of this in the orchestra world. And while it's a little controversial, what we see in the Memphis Symphony is a very clear example of an enterprise trying to find the contemporary expression of its mission to be about its vision. So when they talk about a commitment to meaningful music experiences, that doesn't mean that they've abandoned artistic excellence. They're saying to be an artistically excellent enterprise in their region at this time, it has to be an orchestra that makes its music so meaningful in that community that the community embraces it, wants it to be there, that they feel the orchestra's contribution to the community, and they're willing to be supportive and advocates for that orchestra. Now, that's an example of a shift in the dominant logic model. And without that shift, many organizations will live with the tyranny of mission.